welcome back to Discovering Disabilities in Dearborn. Today we have the pleasure of being joined by Sarah and Muhammad. Guys, tell us a little bit more about yourselves.
Hi, I'm Sarah Moghnieh, and I'm a third year at U of M Dearborn studying behavioral and biological sciences on the pre-med track, and I am president of the Creative Needs Project at U of M Dearborn.
Hi, my name is Muhammad Biro. I am going into my junior year. I am a health and human services major, and I'm on the pre-dental track.
That's awesome. So hopefully a future doctor I'm looking at and a future dentist I'm looking at. Nice, good stuff. All right. This creative needs thing that you mentioned, what is it?
Yeah, so the Creative Needs Project began between our first year and our second year at college. So around spring of 2023 was when we established it at our university, and it had already been present and prevalent within the community. So it was like the first university chapter. Pretty much what we're trying to do is we're trying to engage kids with disabilities that you may see within the special ed classroom setting, doing different activities with them. We go into the classrooms, or we might be out in the community. We've done things in several settings, different types of activities where we just pretty much are trying to overcome the stigma that comes with disability.
Which university did you say this was at?
University of Michigan, Dearborn. We also have chapters at Wayne, Detroit Mercy, and Ann Arbor. Not missing any, am I? No.
Did your specific chapter start in 2023, or was it the whole creative needs in general?
Our specific chapter began in 2023. I think the original creative needs, I believe, began in 2021 during the pandemic.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Tough time. So was it kind of like slow to take off? It seems like it's branched out pretty nicely.
It's definitely branched out pretty nicely. They just opened up 2 new chapters, one at Wayne and one at Ann Arbor, and they're doing pretty good. They're doing very good, actually. And yeah, it's moving pretty good.
Nice. Wow. Well, I'm happy for you guys. What you're doing in the community is very eye-opening and very inspirational too. So thank you for all that you do. Speaking of what you do, what do you do?
Well, I guess like for our typical activities that we do is we'll come up with something that's sensory friendly, works on like motor coordination skills, and as well as like color identification, things like that with the kids. We go into SXI classrooms, which those kids have intellectual and cognitive impairments, and we'll also go into ASD classrooms as well, which is autism spectrum disorder classrooms. And pretty much we get to work with the kids, we get to know them, and it's really cool because throughout this whole experience within the past a little over a year now, we've really gotten to see the kids grow and flourish and be able to get to know them, know different things about them. It's just really cool because you make all of these new friends, and some of them are actually our age too. So
That's really cool. It seems like you guys are very passionate about this. I remember when I was in senior year of high school, that's really when I started to kind of think about the idea of giving back to the community. And then when I got to undergrad, so where you guys are at right now, that's when I really was like, all right, now we're gonna actually do things to give back to the community, right? So where does this passion come from that you have of working with people with disabilities?
yeah, so I think I've had the passion of giving back to the community instilled in me at a young age, my dad being an educator within the community. And I think a lot of us have the similar immigrant story experience with our parents coming to the community and, getting things from the community to establish themselves and, that need to give back. And so with my dad's particular experience, a close family friend had actually had an accident which caused severe disability later in life. So being able to see the village and the support that is needed to help to support families with disabled individuals within them and also the disabled individual themselves, I was able to internalize that and turn it into more of a passion and an interest later in life. And I remember in high school going to volunteering events within Key Club and things like that. One of my close friends had actually brought me to, they had done a disabilities dance. And so I think that's just where like the switch flipped. And so when the opportunity came to start it at U of M Dearborn, I took it and I went running with it.
That's awesome. What about you, Mo?
I feel like for me, it really started when I met my first year, freshman year. I met some of the guys, and I came to the first event with Jawad and Haidar, who is the founder. And from there, honestly, my like love for like helping these kids grew a lot, and I started to realize like how much these social interactions with these kids mean to them, and that changed my like whole perspective in a whole, and it made me want to be there more and be a bigger part of the work itself.
Wow, beautiful stories. We'll talk about the future of Creative Needs and you know where you guys see the projects, stories that you guys just shared. I want to talk a little bit more about. Well, later we'll get to the future of Creative Needs and where you see future projects going. But the current state of Creative Needs, how do you like? Admittedly, so I'm gonna admit this on camera. We called you guys creative minds for like the longest time, and it was, I guess, a mistake. But it's kind of cool because now we can transition into the creative minds that you do have, right? So how do you set up these events? Like, how do you like create and plan the events? Does somebody else do it? And I'll ask more follow-up questions, but like let's answer that one first.
Yeah, so with the help of Pinterest and our amazing board and our great volunteers, we really do just bounce ideas off of each other. And truly one of the biggest things is sometimes when you go into the classrooms, the teachers themselves will kind of suggest or give us ideas of things that they want to see, but most of it is our own planning. We have such great creativity. Most of the time we'll come up with like activities of things that we did when we were younger and put like a twist on it. So then we are taking into account, being sensory friendly and understanding what the kids are able to do and things like that.
Okay. And so you guys have said kids multiple times. What are kind of like the age ranges that, I guess of the students or individuals who are allowed to come to these events or are able to come to these events? Are they like open to the public or how does it work?
It is open to the public in a sense where anybody can reach out to us via our Instagram and they could get in touch and we can add them to a group chat and they're able to sign up for these events to help volunteer with us. And the age ranges for the actual kids that we deal with are from 6 to anything above 6 years old, honestly. And for as far as volunteers go, it's like 18 plus.
Nice.
Yeah, within the elementary school, we actually went last week, and the youngest student, I believe, was 3 years old, and the oldest was around 26.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So a wide age range for sure. How's the turnout usually? Do a lot of people show up to these events?
So whenever we're in the classrooms, you would see about, I think, 90 students in a day. Yeah. And then for more of sometimes we'll do like community events where it'll just be something posted on the main page where you'll see about probably 10 to 20 kids. Usually those are like registration limited and things like that. But we've also had things at our school as well where we help like prep, or we made like blankets for the Children's Hospital last year and we had about 40 individuals come in. So, yeah.
Wow. So it's not just like, I guess it's not just like fun activities like a field day, but it's also giving back. So you're giving these students and these individuals a chance to give back to the communities, which is a really beautiful thing. Wow. Okay. I didn't know that, but now the people know that. So that's really cool. We'll talk about how to get involved a little bit later. But how do you kind of I know you have an Instagram page, right? How do you kind of put this out there that, hey, this event is happening at this time, or, you should come to our events, or like, how do you kind of make it public that these events are going on and encourage people to come to them, show up?
I feel like everybody has to take it under their wing to kind of just spread the message, make sure everybody comes and supports as much as possible. And it really all starts off with our fundraising events. We do these fundraising events where we do like a basketball tournament, a volleyball tournament. That's where it really all starts off, where we're able to raise the money for these kids to actually go into the schools and, fundraise for them and bring the stuff that we're able to bring and the activities that we're able to have with the kids.
Do the kids you ever have something where they can vote, for example, for what activity they want? Like if there's maybe 2 or 3 that you can't decide on specifically what you want to do, is there an opportunity for them to vote or, have a say, so to speak?
We've never really considered that yet, but I think that's something we'll definitely consider in the future. Sometimes if there are extra supplies or things like that, and we might have extra time in the classroom, we'll kind of let the kids decide like between different like designs or models or things like we did a crayon activity the other day, and we had extra time in the classroom, so we made one look like a minion and the other look like Barney. So we let the kid decide which one they wanted to make.
When you say classroom, is it like you guys show up to the schools and you go in the classrooms during class time? Is that what?
Pretty much, yeah. We've fostered such a great relationship with the special ed coordinator at that school that we work with, and she and her staff of special education teachers will make out a schedule, and then we just go to each classroom at their designated time. We work with them.
And how would you say, what inspired you? That's a better way to phrase the question. What inspired you to kind of want to do this? Like, there are so many ways to get involved, right, when it comes to giving back to the community and specifically working with students with disabilities or individuals with disabilities in general. They don't have to be students. But why this? Why creative needs specifically? What led you here?
I feel like what led me here was the couple social like interactions I had. It goes back to the interactions with the kids. Like, you see them, they have these joyful interactions with you, and that changes everything. That makes you want to be there more. That makes you want to come out and support. It goes back to like the teachers expressing their gratitude towards us, and it really shows like how much it means to them, not only the kids, because they have a lot on their plates and they don't only get the appreciation that they really deserve. And that goes back with the families as well. Like, we're there for a couple hours of the day, but these families and administration are around them a lot more, and it really helps them like take a load off in a sense.
We heard briefly before we started this episode that you were supposed to be called a different name.
Yeah, so we were supposed to be called a different name. It was something that was it was like one of those trademarked organizations that they do similar work to what we do. And they have met like thousands of chapters around the country at the elementary, middle school, high school, and post-secondary levels. But what happened was we had more conversation with their leadership when we were beginning to establish that chapter under that name at our university. And one of the biggest issues that we kind of fell into was we realized that some of the expectations set by that particular organization wasn't as culturally understanding of our community. And so my vice president at the time, Joad Saad, and we had sat down and we had said, look, we have creative needs available within the community. Yes, we've done great work and have made such great progress with establishing this other org of this other name, but I don't think that it'll fit what we exactly want to do, and it won't make the impact that we want to make with these kids. So that's when we kind of trashed that other idea, and Creative Needs was then adopted, and it wasn't that much of a change because we still had that passion and we had those ideas beforehand that we had brainstormed, and we just saw it come to life and fruition. So we really are grateful for that name change. It was something that was bittersweet in abandoning it, and it was kind of a headache having to restart in a sense, but I'm so grateful that happened.
So you'd say that Creative Needs is now more culturally competent than whatever the previous one was?
Yes.
Okay, and can you kind of expand on that? In what ways? Like, what did you see lacking, I guess, or not present with the previous name that you see now with Creative Needs?
So when we were looking at the other organization, it had more of an emphasis on social relationships with who we would work with, and you would only be assigned to one individual, rather than now with Creative Needs, we're more focused on professional relationships, which are community needs. And we get to impact and work with a wider scale and wider range of kids and individuals whenever we go into the classrooms and we do our events.
Okay. Are there any, so I realize it could be difficult, right, to just, start up something or, in your case, like start up a branch at a school, right? And not really have much guidance or resources outside of that. Are there any like organizations or groups that you work with to kind of like organize your events or just in general, maybe show up to their events and they show up to yours?
We just started working with the Roots Children's Center that just opened up recently. And we work with the Children's Hospital, like Sarah mentioned. And we're also working with like local elementary schools. So they kind of do a good job of keeping in touch with us and setting up everything and making sure everything's organized and planned. When we show up, we know what to do, we know how long we're there, and everything's kind of like on a very straightforward schedule.
Yeah, and we've also done some work with Access as well, with some of their institutions and their organizations there.
So you guys reach out to them and, you know, you collab and you figure out a time to come together and, you know, do something, make something happen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Nice. Okay. All right. Well, interesting stories. Thank you. Okay, so now I kind of want to ask a little bit more about any like difficulties you've had trying to organize events, because, you know, we talk about stigma all the time, especially within our community, right? And how that kind of makes it difficult for these events to happen, not from the perspective of like setting them up necessarily, but from the perspective of getting people to show up, because a lot of people don't want to make it known that, hey, maybe I have a disability, or maybe my child or someone I love has a disability, right? So have you experienced any difficulties setting up events, and how have you combated, or how can you combat the stigma if it ever shows up?
I feel like we've never really ran into that problem where somebody was like afraid to say they have like special needs or anything in that sort, but we do definitely have to walk on eggshells when it comes to like the safety of the children, what we put around them, what they're able to consume. When we do like last year we did a trunk or treat where we passed out candy for the kids. You know, we had everything labeled. We had the kids put a wristband on, whether it was yellow, green, or purple, depending on whether they could only get toys, dairy-free, or gluten-free. Like, there's a lot of restrictions when it comes to what they're able to consume and what can be around them just for their safety.
So it takes a lot of planning.
It does.
Lots of critical thinking, but once again, we owe it to the educators that we work with and work with very closely, as they know these kids very well, that we're able to, they're pretty much open books whenever we have these types of questions that may arise, that they kind of give us guidance on how to go forth whenever we have any concerns regarding their safety, especially like during that trunk or treat. We got lots of support over different kids and their dietary restrictions and dietary needs.
And no support is too much support, right? Like, you always want people there, people who are passionate, especially helping out with these events, making sure that they go well, making sure that the kids' health, the students' health and well-being is in the best interest of whoever the volunteers are. How do people volunteer? Like, how can they get involved? Do they just like reach out to you guys, or do you have like an application or something like that they have to fill out?
Yeah, it's as simple as that. Just reach out, follow our Instagram. If you go to and DM our Instagram, we'll add you to our WhatsApp group chat, and then that's where we'll update you on our upcoming events and things like that.
You want to tell the people what your Instagram
Oh,
handle
yeah,
is?
at creativeneeds.umd.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll also include it in the description as well, and it'll probably be a shared post too, so you guys will, people will see it. So yeah, reach out if you ever want to volunteer at any of the events. Are the events like local? Do they, you mentioned a branch in Ann Arbor. Do events happen in Ann Arbor where people can actually go there and volunteer as well, or like how does that work?
So for the events affiliated with our particular organization, most of them are fairly local to our campus, and that's how it is for all of the other creative needs chapters at other universities. Within ours, particularly with the organizations we work with, most of them are within a mile from our campus. So, for example, Roots Children's Center was mentioned, the local elementary schools. At times, we'll go to the Children's Hospital, so that is a bit farther, but they're all pretty much local.
And in your experience, we talked kind of about the turnout, and I was looking at it from the perspective of the people with disabilities showing up. But when it comes to like volunteers and stuff, do you feel like you have enough volunteers at these events, or would you like more? Or I mean, the more the merrier, right? But like how is it from a volunteer perspective?
It's actually very good from a volunteer perspective, because a lot of these things that we do and we bring to the classrooms, and we did an arcade and a trunk or treat, a lot of that money is generated from the volunteers coming to our fundraising events and signing up. Like, we do a very good job of getting signups and people to come and show support at these events, whether it's a volleyball tournament, a bowling night, or whatever the case may be.
What was the most memorable moment or event that you've had? And for each of you, it can be a different one. I mean, just in your experience.
I think it was putting together the end of year carnival that we did back in April, just because it was such a way to close out the year and all of the hard work that we've put in, and also just seeing how much our relationship with each of the kids have grown, and just being there. It was something that we had been talking about for quite a while, and just seeing it all come together and being able to visualize it and see it firsthand was just mesmerizing.
That was definitely one of my favorites, the arcade. And then as far as fundraising goes, my favorite one by far was we did a community basketball event, and all the chapters showed up. And to see all that support and everybody coming and, you know, like going out of their way on a weekend in the summer to show up and make sure, you know, that the events run smoothly and we have the money for the kids. That was really great to see.
Speaking of the fundraising events, are they events where the people with disabilities can get involved, or is it just like, you know, just fundraising in general?
It's fundraising in general, in a sense where, you know, we try to bring out as much people as possible. Anybody can come. Open doors, girls, boys, anything. It's like anybody's allowed to join these events.
Nice. So basically no restrictions. I mean, unless
Yeah.
people have health problems or something.
Yes.
Like that. Okay. Wow. So very inclusive. Nice. Good. We always need inclusivity, right? With whatever these events are and anything that we do. So props to you guys. Very good job. Very good stuff. When it comes to these events, do you have a certain, we talked about like the most memorable, but do you have one that like kind of influenced you or touched you the most? It's a similar question, but I'm coming at it from the perspective of like what, like emotionally, what has impacted you the most? Like what event? It could not, like it doesn't have to be an event. It could be just like one day you go to a school and, you know, an interaction with a student or something like that. But like what's, you know, an experience that you've had with creative needs where, you know, it just touched you so much and you're like, you know what, I want to keep doing this, or this is why I do this?
For me, honestly, it was pretty recently. It was after the arcade event. We had a student who passed away shortly after. And I feel like for us to know that we put a smile on his face, that meant the world to me at the end of the day. And it meant the world to Sarah because she worked a lot with him too. So hearing that news, it kind of drains you in a sense, but you also want to remember that you had a great impact on the kid's life. And you should continue to do this to have like better impacts with these kids and make sure they're continuing to have these joyful interactions.
I don't want to make assumptions, but it's probably the same case for you.
It is. I wanted to add another one. There was, back in March, we went in and we did like a March's Reading Month activity where we read like a book, and we had like an array of books for the classrooms that we went to. And following each one, we did like a paper plate animal type of activity where whichever animal was in the book was the craft that you would do afterwards. And while I was reading, it was the book, If You Give a Cat a Cupcake. And while we were reading that, the occupational therapist at the school was in the room, and each of the kids took turns like flipping the pages of the book whenever I finished it. And it was just something that we take for granted, something as simple as that. It was something that the occupational therapist had actually been working with some of the kids. So it was just so amazing being part of that milestone in a way, being able to witness that.
Definitely beautiful moments, and I'm sorry for your loss. And really, it's these moments that keep us coming back, right? Like the emotional aspect of it is what motivates us, what keeps us involved, what makes us want to do more. And sometimes that's not possible, but you know, with initiatives like Creative Needs, you give yourself that platform and that opportunity to do more. So thank you guys for everything that you do. Really, it's a start, right? It's been a few years, but you know, we had a social worker on recently, and they were talking about how they've been a social worker for only a few years, right? But within those few years, you see a lot, and there's still so much more to come. So, you know, a similar situation for you guys where in the future, this will continue to grow, and you are a part of that process, right? You're part of the reason why it continues to grow. So speaking of growth, where do you see creative needs going in, like, I don't know, say 15 years?
Yeah, so we were actually having a conversation about this yesterday, and it would just be so cool if we had like our own center or just like a place for us to be able to host events at, like an event center in a way, to be able to have it be more open and inclusive to the public in a sense, rather than in more controlled environments like an ABA therapy center or going to the hospital or going to the school where, you know, the individuals are like enrolled in the programs there. So it would be something a little more open. And we were even talking about, you know, our career paths, wanting to go into medicine and go into dentistry, being able to also provide like services in a sense that are sensory friendly, disability accessible to these kids. Because we have even, there was a time we were at the elementary school actually, and I had noticed that some dental students had come in and performed some sensory friendly cleanings and exams. And it was just something that stuck out to me, like, oh, like I can continue to do this and I can continue to branch out and be able to take the skills that I learn throughout my higher education and my graduate schooling to be able to continue to serve these kids, because they may not have the best experiences with some of the spaces that are already available, or just, you know, for convenience sake in our community.
And putting these experiences that you have and putting it out there that, you know, people need to be educated, the community needs to be educated, and working to educate them yourselves, I think that also goes a long way. Because your careers in the future, inshallah, when you become a doctor, when you become a dentist, like you said, you're going to have patients who come in with disabilities. It's going to be difficult to try to get them to kind of like trust you in a way, right? And this doesn't have to be just like people with disabilities, just in general, you know, especially with like younger kids, they come in and they're so scared. I used to be scared of the doctor when I was younger. But like you want ways to kind of make them feel comfortable and trust you. And that's not just for the purpose of keeping them, you know, as a patient, but like have them as a quote unquote friend, someone who, you know, they're excited when they come to see you, and you don't want to hurt them, right? You want to be as gentle as possible. You want to, because people have different, like they sense things differently, right? Sometimes people are more sensitive to pain than others. And whatever, you know, whatever that may be, it's important to be able to understand that and work with your patients to just be careful in general, right? So, yeah, thank you for sharing those stories. I think this is a good place to take a break, if you guys would like a break. Yeah? Okay, so we'll take a break and we'll be back shortly. Hey, everyone. Thank you for listening. We hope you're enjoying the podcast so far. If you or someone you know would be interested in being a guest on the podcast, or if you have any feedback, please feel free to reach out to us on Instagram at DreamDearborn, or on our website at dreamdearborn.org, or on our email at disabilitiesproject@umich.edu. Thank you. All right, welcome back from the break. So one question that we had during the break was, has creative needs kind of changed your perspective on disability and inclusion?
It has, in a sense where the social interactions I had with these kids, they really changed the way I view everything about disability. Like now, I further understand that these kids have the same like thought process we have. They have the same feelings we have. They run through the same process of emotion that we do. And we need to take that into consideration when dealing with these kids and understanding that they feel the same way that we feel in a sense. And that really helped me in a way to understand that they're not as limited as we think they are. They just need a little push. They need that little extra push from us. And that's really the biggest point for me.
I think the best way to put it is something that we had a conversation about as well, is that most of the activities that we've done with these kids are things you would see in a general education classroom, but they can still be done within these special education classrooms. It's just the kids may take different things and different skills from it. You know, they might take different lessons and they may take a different route to get there, but they're at the finish and the final product.
So I've heard so far from what you guys have said, the events or the activities seem like both fun and educational, right? There are some of each, like the reading that you mentioned earlier, right, is more so educational. How do you kind of incorporate that into class time? Because I know, like you mentioned you're going in during class time. How do you, like, when I was in school, we had like hours, right? So we had like, oh, first hour was this, second hour was this, or there's a certain time for lunch, for example. Is there a certain specific time where you guys go in, like that's allotted for you guys? And during those times, how do you figure out whether it's supposed to be educational or more so on the fun end, or do you combine them?
So we tend to combine the educational and the fun part. What we'll do is, once again, really great, really supportive school staff will end up saying, hey, our volunteers are available from this time to this time on this day. And we were planning that the activity itself will take about 20 to 30 minutes, give or take. If you can create a schedule, and then the teachers themselves who have a plan for that school day or know their students the best. Like, for example, there are certain times of the day, maybe like closer to lunch or after lunch, that the students may be a bit antsy and it may not be the best time to enter the classroom. So they kind of feel it out and they're able to schedule it themselves. But yeah, that's pretty much how the scheduling process goes. We'll usually block out like an entire day or 2 half-a-days, just also based off of our availability as well.
They do a great job of like fitting us in.
Yeah.
They do a very good job.
They'll pretty much kind of drop everything to be able to fit us in. So they're very flexible. They're very great.
Nice. For students who have like a certain schedule-oriented day, right, or who are not having the best day, how do you kind of navigate like how to actually interact with them?
In a sense, I feel like the teachers do a great job of informing us. So like I would walk into a classroom, we're doing the activities. One of the kids is essentially taking a nap. We wouldn't interrupt his nap. We'd kind of just like leave him off, don't mess with the schedule, but we would make something for him. So when he does wake up, he knows that his friends from U of M Dearborn made a crayon for him or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, pretty much. It's and we see this in the different spaces that we go into. The parapros or the behavior techs that are assigned to each kid are very great with the kids as well, because they're personally assigned to them, so they know their kid the best. They'll work with us while we're working with them to make sure that to really read their behavior cues and things as well, because once again, they have their own ways of communicating, and we just have to respect that as well. And yeah, we always make sure that everyone feels included at the end, even if they don't want to participate in the moment while we're there for those 20 minutes.
What about like from the kids' perspective, right? The students' perspectives. When you guys go in, do you ever like see that the students are excited to see you, or like if you like, for example, if you're about to leave, they're like, no, we want you here. Like, don't leave. We want you to stay.
Honestly, I feel like that's probably one of the best feelings of doing this whole thing. You walk in, they're all like screaming, they're happy. You see the smiles on their faces because they know that we come in there. We always have like a hands-on experience for them, and they get to see some of their friends that they haven't probably seen in like 2 weeks or in a month. And it's always like a new group of volunteers coming in. So they're always meeting new people, having different social interactions, and you can see how much that affects them and how happy they are to be there.
The best thing is also because those classes are, location-wise within the building are all in the same hallway. So they'll sometimes see us going from class to class, and they always want to jump back in and redo the activity or the craft, where they get so excited to see us on our way out. It's just the best feeling ever, because it just means that we were able to, that's just, I guess, it's proof or evidence of the work that we're doing, that we know that we're doing the right thing. We're doing something at that point. And it just always warms my heart. We always talk about we're so excited to see our friends in this class and things like that. It's the best feeling ever.
For volunteers, right? You say the students, they get excited to see their friends, right? And that's kind of what this relationship turns into, right? I mean, you're going in, you're working with the students, you're seeing them, you're sharing laughs, you're sharing memorable moments together. So of course, you call that a friendship. That grows into a friendship. When a lot of people hear the term friend, they may think if I'm 15, for example, right? I have a friend who's around the same age, 15, 14, 16, whatever. The volunteers who go into these classrooms, are they can they be around the same age? Are they ever around the same age as the actual students?
So we've had it where we didn't mention this earlier, but we also do have a chapter starting at Dearborn High School. So we've had the high school students sometimes come to some of our events. Some of the classrooms actually, as we also mentioned, some of the students are around our age as well, where some of them are a little older than us or our age. But we would love in the future to maybe even incorporate, or since there are general education classrooms within this building, to be able to maybe incorporate and work with the students in the general education classrooms to come and help us with some of the events and the crafts as well.
I think it's so important to have, like, it's by the way, phenomenal that you're going into high schools now, right? Like, creative needs is going to become like a chapter in a high school. I think that's very, very important and honestly underrated. Like, you want to start at an early age, and even earlier than that. I remember when I was in school, they had this thing called service squad, where like it wasn't this, but it was like we'd go in and we'd make sure like students are organized, they clean up after themselves. Quite the name, service squad, but but yeah, like we had the opportunity in elementary school. I think it was just 5th grade, but I'm not 100% sure. I don't remember exactly, but having that experience working with other students, I think it's important, right? And this isn't something where it's like, can potentially be like a power trip or anything like that, right? It's more so like it's humbling. You go in, you work with these students, and you kind of learn how to teach, right, in those moments, but you also learn how to be patient and how to care, how to love, how to work with people who need just a little push, like you were saying earlier. Do you have plans, or do you know of any plans to expand even further, going to different high schools? I mean, I'd imagine with one high school being in the mix now, multiple would want to be, right? Or like even before high school, middle school, elementary.
I feel like the founders, Haidar and Bilal, they're very supportive when it comes to this stuff. They always wanna expand and reach out the branches. And when we came to them with this like ideas, they're always open. They even come to our fundraising events till this day. They're both in their respective graduate programs, and they both still show up to our events, help volunteer. They're always in touch with us. So they make it easy for this organization to be expanded in a sense.
Cool. Do you picture, like, I know I asked you in 15 years, where do you picture creative needs, but say in 20 years now, right? From, a different angle, do you picture creative needs being like a chapter in like middle schools and elementary schools, like we were just saying, or?
Yeah, I think it would be amazing to see it as something more internal rather than, an external group of volunteers coming into the school. As amazing as it is, having internalized programs within those schools, within the general education classrooms, and being able to teach inclusivity at a young age and respect for, all abilities and circumstances that others may face to the younger kids. Just being able for them to be able to do those types of things as well. I remember the building that we go to with the special education classrooms has other programs within it, like a middle school, and which I attended. And I remember during my 8th grade year, we read to some of the special education classrooms during March's Reading Month. So it was something that I wish that we had more of and more opportunity to do. And I think that it's something very important to teach at a young age and to be able to incorporate it into the curriculum, or like the core values, for example, that you're taught in elementary school, or like the golden rules of the classroom.
I also think the students with the disabilities would also enjoy like taking initiative on those initiatives, right?
Yeah.
Like, imagine a creative needs elementary school, right? Or elementary program. And then you have a student with disability going and working with another student with disability, but like kind of, that whole notion of giving back, or like how to work with them, right? Because in our experience, and we've talked about this before on the podcast, people with disabilities love to kind of like work, right? They love to give back to the community. They love to interact with people. So I think honestly, it's a golden opportunity, and not just limited to elementary school, obviously, but like I think golden opportunity for them to be able to work with other students, especially, and be like, hey, like this is us. We're working together. We're staying cool. We're growing together. Like it's an important part of growth, in my opinion. So I do want to reiterate again, you guys are doing some amazing work. Thank you so much for everything that you do. Now let's talk a little bit more about volunteering and how people can get involved, right? So we discussed it a little bit earlier, but now I want to dive into the specifics of what the process looks like. So you said people reach out to you if they want to volunteer. Are there any specific qualifications that they need? Any like background checks, for example? Is there anything like that that they have to do?
It's more specific to the site that the volunteering event is taking place in. So I mentioned earlier that we do have events on our campus where you're not working directly with the kids, but you're still doing things for the kids, whether it be prepping for our events, or we donated and we made like knot blankets for the Children's Hospital. That one is just more open to anybody in the community, anybody who just sees our Instagram post, for example, and wants to come out. Rather, if we're going to the school, it might require like a background check, depending once again on what it is that we are doing. You would just have to work with us. It's like a 5-minute process, really. The day of that you go into volunteer, you can fill out all of the paperwork and then just continue volunteering with us throughout that day. And then you're just on file with the background check for the rest of time, I guess. And then some places may require us to fill out like a HIPAA form just to respect the privacy of who we're working with. But really, they're just simple forms, and it's just all at the end of the day for the safety of the kids and to respect their privacy and their individuality and everything.
So nothing to be afraid of necessarily, right?
Nothing to be afraid of at all. I have a bunch of copies of the background check forms in my car. Like I drive with them every single day. Really just something that you can look at. If you have any questions, just let us know, or, we'll just take them to whoever would be better at answering them. But really just nothing to be afraid of. It's nothing too crazy.
And do you have I guess you probably don't control the actual makeup of the forms, right?
Yeah.
But are there forms available in different languages in case people of different languages who speak different languages want
Yes,
to
there
get them?
are. Yeah. We have them, I think, available in English, Spanish, Arabic, and then you can ask for them to be translated if needed.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
So awesome. All right. And that's not through you, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Say somebody does want to contact you, Creative Needs, and maybe they don't speak the best English, right? Or maybe they're hesitant, right? What's something you can tell them to encourage them to actually reach out, to encourage them to, seek your support, but also for them to kind of, get support from you in the other way around. I don't know if I phrased that properly, but basically, how do you encourage people to reach out? How do you encourage people to work with you, to get involved with you, to help your initiative grow?
So I think one of the biggest things, and I'll let Hamid tag on to this, that we've learned throughout this entire process is that communication has no boundaries, right? The way that you communicate isn't bound by a language or anything. Really, there are so many ways that we can communicate. Many of the kids that we work with are nonverbal. So really, we've learned to communicate with them through body language and things like that. So I really do encourage everyone, regardless of what language you speak or how proficient you may be in that language, that there is a place for you within our events as much as you have the heart and you have the passion for it.
I think it goes back to what Sarah just said, and a language barrier shouldn't be a problem when it comes to helping kids or even reaching out, because I know a lot of us will find ways to translate. A lot of us speak Arabic. We have a couple of people that can speak Spanish, or regardless of what the language is, we can find ways to make it work. It can always work out, essentially.
What about from the perspective of confidence, right? If somebody's they want to reach out, but they're kind of holding back a little bit. They know what you guys do. They appreciate what you guys do, but they're something stopping them from taking that step forward and reaching out. What can you tell those people?
Tell them to just reach out. It's, in a sense, for me, it's that simple. Just reach out and we'll give you the conditions. We'll give you the situation or how things are done. And if you're not comfortable with that, then we could always work around it. We can make it to where you're best comfortable. And I feel like if we just start off with a text, you'll end up volunteering somehow.
Yeah. And
we'll find a way.
Yeah, and to build off of that, it's also just as simple as reminding them they're not the only ones in the room. You have us, you have the other volunteers, you have the parapros, you have the teacher in the classroom. So you have about I want to say 15 people in the room that are there to support you, along with the kids that can range from a classroom size of 4 to 10. So really, you're not going into this completely blind. We walk you through the process. We let you maybe even observe us the first few classrooms we go to and then jump in whenever you're comfortable. But yeah, you're not going to know how much you're going to love it unless if you do it. So we encourage everyone to come with us at least once.
Right. That's why they say you don't know until you try, right? I think there's so much to be achieved through conversation, right? And that conversation doesn't have to be verbal. There are people who are nonverbal, like you guys mentioned earlier, right? And they have their own way of communicating. But I just think conversation in the sense of communication, not in the sense of like, oh, you have to be talking to have a conversation, right? But whether through text, whether through even just a look, right? Or a listen, I heard something, or I felt something, right? Because we can converse through senses. So conversation, I think, will help. So like, it just helps in general so much of like solving problems, coming to solutions, working together, right? So on the basis of having a conversation, right, and people reaching out to you and having that conversation with you, learning how to get involved, having the confidence, gaining the confidence to get involved, I think there's just like so much potential there. And like you said, it's as simple as reaching out. Some people, might be hesitant to do so, but they're not the only ones in the room who are in this, right? Like, you have a team, you have a strong foundation, you guys are going to be working together, and conversation is what will help people understand that the most. So on the basis of conversation and on the topic of conversation, I'd like you to communicate something to me through this conversation that we're having now. And this is the transition to the dream segment, complicated transition to the dream segment, probably the most complicated transition to the dream segment that I've ever done, but it's okay. Dream segment is at the end of every podcast. We just ask our guests what is their dream, and this can be dream related to disabilities, not related to disabilities, related to anything in general. And it doesn't have to be a singular dream. It can be multiple dreams if you have multiple dreams. But Sarah, Hamad, what are your dreams? One at a time, please.
Would you like to take the floor?
You can go first.
Okay. So my dream, essentially, it goes further than creative needs in a sense. I would obviously love to hold on to it, but my dream starts off with the career I'm pursuing in dentistry, and I would really love to make a connection with kids with special needs back to dentistry. And if I could find a way, like Sarah said, where they do like sensory checkups and make sure that everything is fine and they're comfortable, if I can find a way to implement that somehow, whether through a clinic or going to actual schools myself, that's something that I would really love to pursue.
So as I expressed earlier, inshallah one day I'll become a doctor, and I want to go into pediatrics because I love the idea of working with kids. I would love to. I've always had a passion for health equity, and I think health equity not only spans, the resource accessibility, it's also making the resources, understanding the accessibility needs of others. And, within the work that we do here at Creative Needs, being able to intertwine that within it to make healthcare more accessible to our friends with disabilities, to be able to work with kids, and be part of that journey with them. That's the dream.
Definitely both have wonderful dreams, and we hope they come true. Education, as you guys may know, and if you don't know, you're going to learn soon enough, that education never stops. It's a lifelong process, right? Whether through like actual school education, some people go to school their whole lives, or whether through just education, through life, through living, through the things that you do, like creative needs. Education will never stop. You're always going to be learning. And education goes both ways, right? It's not just about you learning something, but it's about you teaching something as well. And you don't have to physically, I don't have to put a book down, have a student with me, and guide them through it to actually teach them, right? I can teach them through my actions. I can teach them through my words. A textbook is not needed. Life is a textbook itself, right? Metaphorically speaking, of course. But education never stops. So continue doing what you're doing. Again, as I've said before, and I'm going to keep saying it, you guys are doing a wonderful job. As much as you are going about this initiative and changing lives, you're also doing so educationally. and your lives are being changed as well through this education. So keep it up. If anybody ever asks you any questions, don't shy away. Try to answer. If you don't know, say you don't know. But for the purpose of learning, maybe look it up, try to find it out, and always come back. Again, conversation is very powerful, right? So through education, through a conversation, comes a betterment of the world. So thank you again for everything you've done, everything you've been doing. Do you have any final comments or questions that you'd like to ask?
Final comment would be just a thank you to all the administration and staff and families that make it happen to begin with, and to Haidar and Bilal for making this org possible.
Yeah, I want to thank all of the amazing people that we've worked with thus far and for entrusting us with this initiative and to carry on the Creative Needs name and to be able to do the work that we do and impact the lives of all that we've worked with. It's just, it's astounding, and I'm so grateful for it.
And hopefully continues to grow, as we've said already. Huge shout out to those people. And since we're on the topic of thank yous, thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Muhammad, for joining us today. It's been a wonderful episode. Thank you to all of our viewers watching at home. Please make sure to follow us on our social media at Dream Dearborn, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, and visit our website, dreamdearborn.org. Till then, we'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you guys for having us.
Thank you.
You.
Wow, you guys did great, bro.